Hello Star Warriors, this is Mananashanka. English subtitles are included, as always. Please note that I'm not an expert in Norse mythology, and it may be so that I make a mistake. So if you notice one, please write a comment about it on YouTube and leave a like to the comments with which you agree. But here we start. When you watch any film of the Marvel Universe, you can easily feel the impression of reading some kind of a fairy tale, something like an ancient Greek, Roman, Egyptian or Scandinavian myth or a legend. The universe in the films, as well as the universe in a comic series, is literally filled with wonders and magic that are often called science and technology, or sometimes even both. And there is nothing strange in it. Actually, it is the opposite, and the authors from Marvel frequently take ancient stories and legends of different peoples and turn them into quite distinctive and interesting works of modern art, crowded with clichés in a good sense of that word. And the story of Scandinavian gods is no exception. Thor, Odin, Loki, Sif, and other gods from the ancient myths and legends had become the main heroes of many comics, TV series and films. Both the stories and the appearances of these characters changed significantly, and today I want to tell you about Thor, the son of Odin, a mighty and a kind thunderer, who, however, frequently got into troubles. If the idea of comparing the characters from the Marvel Universe and the gods from different pantheons is a good one, then please leave a like and write a comment about it. It is very important for me to know your opinion. Okay, let's start. A god which is usually called Thor actually has many names. I will not pronounce them here, but you will be able to see the names in the subtitles section. Thor was one of the most important gods of the ancient German pantheon. His name comes from the word Thunras, which literally means thunder. Also, Romans called Thor Jupiter or Jovi, but it was actually incorrect because Jupiter is another thunderer who never actually appeared in the Norse mythology. Thor's wife's name was Sif, and unlike the Sif from Marvel, this goddess never liked to fight. Her hairs were golden, and she was a protector and a patron deity of marriage. Once upon a time, Loki played a practical joke with Sif by cutting her hair off when she was sleeping, which led to Thor kicking Loki's ass and kindly asking him to do something about Sif's golden hair. Loki went to the land of dwarves and made a bet that they can't craft the wig that Sif will like. He of course lost his bet because they made a beautiful wig made of pure gold, as well as Mjolnir, Thor's hammer and some other cool stuff that could please even gods. But being a tricky person, he didn't give anything to dwarves after losing the bet. Mjolnir, as you probably know, is a Thor's hammer that could fly and even change its size. Unlike the hammer described in the films, the one from the legends could be picked up by many, even by mortals. For example, a giant once stole Thor's hammer, so the god of thunder, following Loki's advice, dressed up like a bride, and pretending he's Freya, wedded the giant and stole his hammer back during the wedding and then escaped. Although Odin was the oldest of the gods of Asgard, it was Thor who was the strongest one. So Odin's son was sometimes depicted on a throne as a king. However, as we know from the legends, he didn't like to spend his days sitting on a throne. Instead of living quietly, he often followed his passion and went into dangerous adventures, traveling between the worlds, utilizing the great tree called Yggdrasil. Thor's dead enemy wore the name of Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, a snake-like creature who was Loki's son. This serpent was born after Loki cheated on his Asgardian wife with a frost giantess while being in the land of frost giants. The serpent, by the way, wasn't the only bastard of Loki's lineage. The giantess also bore him Hel, the goddess of the dead, and a gigantic wolf named Fenrir. For many years, Thor lived with hatred towards the Midgard serpent in his heart, and once upon a time, he, while fishing with one of the giants, caught the serpent with a hook on a line, using a bull's head as a bait. The creature could have drawn Thor if it wasn't for the help from the giant, who cut the line and saved Thor from dying in the waters of the Great Ocean. And although the giant literally saved Thor's life, the god of thunder was very disappointed by the turn of events. Scandinavian gods in their original myths were actually pretty rude and even evil. For example, once upon a time a stranger came into Asgard and proposed to build a wall around the city of gods if they give Odin's wife, Freya, to marry him. However, not willing to follow their agreement, the gods, led by Loki, tricked the great builder and stole his horse, which made him unable to finish the wall in time, so they expelled him without paying him anything for his work. But probably the most terrible decision of theirs was to betray Loki's son, Fenrir, the Great Wolf. Fenrir was a loyal Asgardian. He was adopted by the gods when he was a puppy, and grew surrounded by their love. But one day the gods got scared of this wolf growing too fast, so they decided to tie him up with a magic silk, telling him that they would free him if he will not be able to free himself. But they betrayed his trust and made him the victim of their evil scheme. That made Fenrir angry, so when he will be able to free himself, Ragnarok will start. His sons Hati and Skjöll will devour the sun and the moon. Fenrir will then make an alliance with other children of Loki, Hel and Jormungandr, as well as with the armadas of fire giants, sons of Muspel, led by Surtr, a giant wielding the flaming sword. During their battles with Ases, Surt and his followers will burn most of the world, killing most of the gods and people in the process. Fortunately, some of the gods and some humans will survive the Ragnarok and will start their lives anew. Thor will be killed by the venom of his greatest enemy, the Midgard serpent, whom he actually killed but was poisoned during the fight. His hammer Mjolnir will be utilized by his children, Magni and Modi, who will settle in Asgard after the Ragnarok and will try to recreate its former glory. However, that is a story for another day. If you find this video interesting, I would really appreciate it if you leave a like and write a comment. Any kind of comments, maybe even multiple comments. Remember, your feedback is important. Also subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos about different fictional universes, including my personal favorite, the Star Wars universe. Thanks for watching, and as the ancients said, let the Force go with you, always.